I just wanted to say that it's just very refreshing to see a Black type 1 diabetic. When this whole thing started with my daughter, I was looking for him, and I'm like, where are you? Where are the people?
I do whatever I can to break through those barriers, all barriers. It's not just diabetes, it's community barriers, school-related barriers. I've helped do write policy and procedure with 504 IEPs, all of those things. Breaking through stigmas, just doing whatever I can to lessen the burden, plus keep building our community.
I love it.
Welcome to the Chronically Well podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. On today's episode, I have the honor of speaking with Keisha. Keisha is the parent of a child living with type 1 diabetes. And community, if you know me personally, you know how much I love, I honor, wholeheartedly respect and admire our T1D parents, because the cape you wear, the shield you protect us with, your guidance, the whole mental fortitude that you have, that strength is beyond measure. There's no way I can truly explain it or announce it to the public, because you gotta be there. You have to witness it. Those days, those nights, those second by second, it's like you were gifted an infant, I believe 10 years ago. And then you were gifted another infant 4 years after that.
Yes.
Keisha, that infant is every day an infant with diabetes.
Yes.
Every day it's a new, growing, challenging experience. And again, Keisha, could you please give our audience a summary of who you are?
Definitely. So thank you, Will. Wow, you're awesome. You're amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm Keisha, and my daughter, Savannah, she's 10. And in 2019, February to be exact, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I'll go into that a little bit in depth later, but for me, as a parent of a type 1 diabetic, I was really searching for a community. And so at the height of TikTok, or at the start of TikTok, I was on YouTube, like watching all these videos, trying to really engulf myself in the type 1 diabetes world, get as much knowledge. And I said, well, you know what, let me start a TikTok. Maybe I can find a community on TikTok. So that's what I did. And I did not realize there was such a large community of type 1 diabetics on TikTok. And so I kind of grew my following on there in my community, just posting my daily struggles with being a parent of a type 1 diabetic. But it was immensely helpful for my mental state as a single parent of a child with a type 1 diabetic. I don't think people really understand or grasp the severity of the situation prior to you having a child with a chronic illness, especially with type 1 diabetes. That's me. I have almost 12,000 people on TikTok. I'm trying to grow my Instagram, but I really appreciate TikTok, and I'm actually sad that it might go away, because I needed it. I needed it in 2020, 2019. I really needed TikTok. I needed the people on TikTok. I learned a lot just from watching different videos. I learned a lot from watching YouTube, because I knew nothing. I knew nothing about type 1 diabetes. I knew nothing. I was very green. So, yeah.
You should just let you know, people who have lived with type 1 diabetes for decades, up until 2019, 2020, really 2020, pandemic made us all buckle down and learn it. Many truly knew not much about it other than staying alive. And you said, you were talking about how you will miss TikTok if it is to go, because of everything that it's done for you. Keisha, You have 12 plus thousand followers. Keisha, you've equally done for TikTok what is done for you, if not more, because you are one person. You're an individual with a child.
Thank you.
So TikTok, and we know those folk out there who are trying to diminish, take away what has been gifted to you, to many people across the board. I know my one voice isn't going to change their perspective, but we the people, we the people, we know the aspects of social media and how it has helped us in our growth and our continued development. Just try to get some kind of understanding of people beyond self. That's all it takes.
Right.
That's all it takes. But I know no matter what, you're going to continue your growth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm loving this. This is just amazing. I commend you. When I saw you, I was like, I was so excited. I was so excited to see your content. So excited.
Thank
I
you.
needed you back in 2019.
And I was available in 2019. So just take a step back. Like in I want to say 2019, that's when I became like more so on social media. It's talking about type 1 diabetes, because like it was almost like I had an epiphany. Like one day it was like, there's literally no one that looks like me.
I had the same epiphany, the same thing.
Like I remember the first person of color that I found via social media. I remember the first person of color I met in person with type 1 diabetes. And I knew that strength that it helped me, and it, like helped me with, like guided me and supported me, just knowing that there was someone else out there, because I've been living with type 1 diabetes. March 10th will make 22 years.
Wow.
And for the first 15 plus years, there was
nothing.
If you were to take a dive into like my old posts, and like I said it repeatedly, like I'm the only person I know that looks like me with type 1 diabetes.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, it wasn't just for me. It was also for my daughter, because I wanted her to see someone who was like her represented, nothing against the other content creators in the type 1 diabetes space. But if you look on YouTube, it's a lot of white people.
Sure.
It's a lot of white people. And even at my daughter's school, she, there was only 2 other girls who were type 1 diabetics, and they were older than her, and they weren't Black. And I said, well, if I create content, maybe someone will see my content, and it'll be less of a jarring reality for them if they see that we're living with type 1 diabetes as a family, as a Black family, so.
Right. Because even when we go back in history, 100 years ago, 102 years now, this year will mark 103 years since the advent of insulin. 1922, since it was first used. Back then, they didn't believe people of color could be diagnosed with diabetes.
Right.
It took a decade plus before a person of color in the U.S. was given insulin.
Right.
I spoke with, I've been speaking a lot with people around the world, globally, more so lately. And just a couple of days ago, I recorded with a young lady from India, and we were having a conversation about, it wasn't until, I believe, 1929 when the first child in India was given insulin. 7 years after it was readily available for people in North America of, say how it is, white people. And this young girl was 12 years old. And when she was given insulin, it wasn't the insulin that was available here in the US or in Canada. And she passed shortly after being given that insulin. So Yeah, it took many years, but today we know that everyone can be diagnosed with this.
and live.
No one is an exception to this. There's no rule when it comes to being diagnosed.
No rule.
But today we can live, we can thrive, we can
Mhm.
become equal to or greater than our than everyone else because today
Mhm.
the average life expectancy for a person with diabetes is 74 to 76 years.
Yep.
The average life expectancy for a person without diabetes is 76 years. Like,
Yeah.
and all of the resources are there for you for your child to
Hmm.
be her best.
Yep. And you just have to know where to look, know where to find them.
You
So
have to.
yeah,
Those resources.
those are so crucial. And I'm glad you brought that up because I do. One of the resources that really helped me, I'm not gonna lie, was JDRF. Um, I don't know if that happened to you. I don't know if you got like a care package when you were first diagnosed, but when we left the hospital in DC, um, like a week later, we got a package from JDRF, and it had all these like,
Mhm.
nicks and knacks and things. But the thing that really helped me was they had a booklet about explaining the 504 plan and what that is and how you can incorporate that into your child's, everyday life. And that was crucial for me because I couldn't wrap my head around how am I going to manage her diabetes at daycare and at school. Like, what am I going to do? Like, this is crazy. And that was helpful. Also, I just wanted to talk about just a lot of families that I saw online were units. There was a spouse, a wife,
Mhm.
but I'm a single mom, and her father wasn't really a part of her life like he was, but he wasn't, and so it was like pulling teeth trying to get him to take classes and to learn about stuff. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to do this like on my own. This is like, um, so I really appreciated what JDR sent, because that was my starting point, and then I really delved into YouTube and watching everything I could consume. I watched.
Mhm.
So it was thank you JDRF because you kind of started the ball for me in terms of what I needed to start doing immediately to catch me up to speed.
So many people. Well, first, before I even get there, again, I told you I did tap into your background a little bit. So,
Mm-hmm.
again, your daughter will get a chance to hear or see this someday. Um, I do want to first give you your flowers
Oh,
for
thank you.
being the amazing parent that you are, but
Oh, thank you.
also as your child grows into adolescence, she's what is she, 10, 11 now?
She's 10. She'll be 11 in May. Mm-hmm.
She'll be 11 in May. My youngest will be 11 in February, so same age.
Yeah,
Uh,
same.
and so I know that as she grow, there's going to be a lot of things that she hear, that she sees, all of those things. Um, Baby girl, whenever you do get a chance to tap into this, just know you have this community of support that it's always going to be there for you. Your mom is always going to be there for you. I
Mm-hmm.
do know that your father has transitioned and that he will always be there to guide you, protect you along your journey in life forever, eternally. I just wanted to be able to
Thank you.
gift
You
you
did your
that.
research. Thank you.
I truly love my people.
That is amazing. Thank you. Yeah,
I
he passed away last year. Um, he was murdered. So yeah.
understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask how this diagnosis change and affect you when we go back to that diagnosis time and period, because
Mm,
I've recorded with a lot of adults today who were diagnosed at that young age. And a lot of those, I'm say that they hear that their parents truly couldn't like believe it. Like even when the doctor said like this is forever, parents were like, but they're
what do you mean?
young. My
Like
child is
what?
young,
Right.
resilient. There's no
Right.
we can beat this.
Yeah. Well, it was like that for me, but not all the way. So my mother is a type 2 diabetic. So I had a little sense of what diabetes was, only a little bit, but not I didn't realize the severity of the situation. So just to backtrack, my daughter started showing symptoms. And I'm an astute mom. Like I'm always paying attention to, what's going on. My daughter was potty trained. She was 4, but she kept peeing, like she just kept peeing and peeing, and she was having accidents. I said, well, what is the problem? Like what is going on? And then she started losing a lot of weight. Like her clothes were like falling off. This was in like a span of like a week. Mm-hmm. And so I called her father and said, hey, yo, like something is wrong with Savannah. We got to take her to the doctor. So he was like, cool. So we went to her pediatrician. And then that's when it got scary. That's when it was scary. They made her pee in a cup. And then so they wouldn't tell me what was going on. They were just like, okay, go make her pee in a cup. I'm like, all right, cool. But when they did that, in my back of my mind, I said, okay, well, I know that might mean that she might have diabetes if they're making her pee in a cup, but they wouldn't say anything to me. They wouldn't tell me what the problem was. And so all they said to me was like, okay, we found some sugar in her blood. We need you to rush her to Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. I live in the suburbs of D.C. I live in Maryland. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. So we rushed her to the hospital. We rushed her to Children's. It took, like 40 minutes. And then she was, they still wouldn't diagnose her. They didn't diagnose her until the second day she was in the hospital. On top of that, I was just starting my new job that I currently am still working at. And so my job required me to go to orientation. And if you don't go to orientation, you don't get hired. They will fire you on scene. So I had to leave her with her father at the hospital. My mom did come visit, but she spent like a whole day. The first day that she was diagnosed, to spend her with her father at the hospital. And I was freaking out. I was like, what is going on? And that was the most scary. She's never had a stint in the hospital. I really didn't know what was going on, for the most part, until I got back. And then they were like, yeah, we've diagnosed her with type 1 diabetes. And then we had like an 8-hour crash course in how to take care of her. They would not allow us to leave the hospital until we knew how to properly inject insulin. They gave us like an orange and told us to, put the syringe and stick it. And I was like, this is crazy. And then they told us all the things that we needed to do. And then they were like, okay, well, we're going to send you off. Bye. Manage it. And we're like, and not me, because she was going home with me. Not that he wasn't supportive, like he was very supportive, but I knew that I had a huge responsibility in having to manage this by myself. I didn't know anything about CGMs, pumps, because she was started off on a sliding scale. So I was physically giving her injections like all day. It was overwhelming. And once I did more research, I said, this is for life. Like, what am I going to do? I can't manage this. I broke down. I was crying at the hospital. I cried when I got home. I was like, this can't be my life. This cannot be our life. So that's how it was for me.
Those breakdowns and cries just let you know, Keisha, I am an almost 42-year-old man who has lived with type 1 diabetes for 22 years. I was diagnosed at 20 years young. I do break down. I do cry. My wife has caught me in the kitchen at the counter, just standing there, and she comes, puts her hand on my back and rubs it and like, you okay? You okay? Like it happens. And I try to emphasize that and let people who live with diabetes know that the parents, the caregivers, they equally go through that mental strain, that burnout, that sense of confusion, because, I mean, Did anyone at the start of this tell you, Keisha, it's not your fault?
No. And you don't even know, like you go back in your brain to like when we were at the hospital, I was asking her father, I said, do you know anybody in your family who is a type 1 diabetic? No one on my side of my family is a type 1 diabetic. But then we found out that his uncle was a type 1 diabetic. And so after I did my more research, I realized that it is hereditary. And I was like, well, wow, okay. I had no idea. Like when I was pregnant, we did test for sickle cell because I do carry the trait. But we ruled that out because he didn't carry the trait. And so we got to, all I was concerned about was sickle cell. I was not even thinking that my child could potentially have type 1 diabetes. That wasn't even a thought.
They wouldn't even have tested.
Exactly. So it was a real shocker. It was a real shocker for me. And I had a lot of bad days at the beginning. I had a lot of bad days. I realized I had to get myself together because I had to be a parent to my daughter, and I needed her to understand that regardless of what is going on right now, that she's going to be okay. And I had to reel it in. I had to reel it in. And so I just had to reel it in. I had to get out of my funk, and I had to reel it in.
And you're still reeling it in. Just to let you know that.
Thank you.
Even though, like, I know community means everything. Like you were speaking about JDRF. Many people don't know, like, JDRF is a great resource in the community because if it wasn't for the likes of JDRF, it was literally the first juvenile diabetes research foundation or facility. Like, it was the first. And because of that, because it was directly targeting young people with diabetes, that's how they were able to start the research in things such as insulin pumps, continuous glucose monitors. That has been the biggest source of funding for these things over the years. A lot of adults today, they're like, basically, they'd be like, F JDRF, all they want is their money, blah, blah. But they failed to do the research.
And exactly.
And like my background is as a media literacy educator. I've been a media literacy educator for upwards of 10 years. And I cannot let the media be my greatest influence and impact on the things I do without me first taking a deep dive into truly what it is. So again, the JDRF has helped many families.
They've helped me.
I must ask today, as an adult, though, and I mean, you've been you were a part of JDRF in those early years. Today, as an adult, you, Keisha, we know your daughter has diabetes, and we're going to tap into that because she is at a young age where she's about to transition into middle school, adolescence, teen years, all of that drama added on with diabetes. But today, you, how are you, or how can I support you? How can I support you in your own mental well-being, emotional well-being, psychological well-being? Because I do form adult communities, have meetups, whether you're a type 1 diabetic or the parent of, that meetup is for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I really appreciate your content. So I've been like listening, and I'm sharing it with my daughter, which is helpful. I don't think you understand how happy I am to like be a part of this, and for you to just to see another face that looks like me in the space, because I needed that. And so on my way to building my TikTok and whatnot, I did meet a few other Black type 1 diabetics, but I didn't really meet any parents of children, but like Black parents of type 1 diabetics, and that it's very nuanced, and that is what I was looking for when I started my TikTok. But because it I don't know how, I don't really know how to explain it, but that whole community, it's just a different, it's different nuance. Even from going to the hospital, going to your endocrinologist, sometimes there's a sense of, okay, as a black person, oh, you don't really know. It's perceived like, okay, we don't really know what we're talking about. You always are having to defend your decisions with, managing your child's type 1 diabetes. And it's just a different nuanced thing. And it's a conversation I would like to have with other Black parents of type 1 diabetics to see if they're experiencing the same thing. Because I understand the perspective from a white person. I see it everywhere, YouTube, but I don't really see it much with Black parents because, one, you may not have the time to talk about it. You're overwhelmed. I know there are other parents out there of of type 1 diabetics who are Black, but I don't see them, So that's what I'm looking for in the space, to communicate with other Black parents who have, and I know it's a whole community. It shouldn't matter about color, but sometimes there's a bit of a nuance that I'm looking for that nuance.
Keisha, I'm going to call it, say it how it is. We just had Thanksgiving. We had Christmas. When you think about like the foods and the desserts or whatever, if you want to go over to your neighbor's house, your friend's house, your cousin's house, you know what they're going to be cooking, right?
Yeah.
You know the conversations that are going to be held, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to be prepared for them, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're on the spot, like, Keisha, where are you? Like, who your new boo type? Like, how you're going to respond and react to that.
Yeah.
Those are the groups you need. You need those groups.
Yeah.
You need people like-minded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I agree.
I jotted that down because I have some great peers that are mothers, fathers that look like us in the community, so that you can have that connection.
I appreciate it. I also, what was also helpful was, and I don't know if you've experienced it because you've been a diabetic for a long time now, but we're associated with the Children's Hospital. And so sometimes they ask us if we want to be a part of certain studies. And so the one study that Savannah and I were part of was when she was first diagnosed, and we were linked up with a family who had a diabetic who had been a diabetic now for 5 or 6 years, a seasoned diabetic. Mm-hmm. That was also helpful because I was able to ask the family questions, and we met like once a week virtually, and it was nice. I don't know did you experience that? Did you have that?
I've never heard of such.
Yeah. So whenever they ask us to do studies, I always say yes, because you never know what the result would be after, So she's actually about to do another study, in like a couple of weeks. Yeah. So.
Are you allowed to say what it is?
I
mean, this
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This won't be released until February.
Okay.
But yeah, if you want to share with that, share that off air or whatever.
So the study is through Children's Hospital, and then basically the study's about they've been tracking her progress throughout the years, and so it's a study for preteens who have been diabetic since they were younger, and it's similar to the previous study, but they track her symptoms, they track her daily, not daily, but like weekly, numbers and stuff. And then they also, of course, pay you. They give you a little bit of a stipend. To be a part of this, a part of the study. But I think those are also helpful because it's sort of kind of, I don't know how much information is being relayed about, Black type 1 diabetics.
Yes.
So I want to be helpful because I don't know if they're really asking information about us,
Right. We need more minority involvement in research and studies, because that's the only way we're going to get the true scope of things, like the reality of all of these tests, these changes, clinical trials.
Right.
we can't just go off of what a small group does.
Exactly.
You have to have everyone involved. Yeah, I'm always checking off the box to see if I qualify for these studies because, I mean,
Yeah,
representation does matter.
it matters. It matters. So, yep. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah. So
That's good. You're doing the things that you need to do.
thank you.
I just
How are you?
I just hope that you're able to also have a social life.
That's
Look,
another thing.
look.
When she was first diagnosed, I said, "Wow, my life is over. I'm not going to be able to do anything." But I got out of that mindset. I embraced it. I said, I at first I really thought I couldn't like date. Like I'm like, man, I can't date. Like, who's going to want to like date me? But
You're saying things right now that I have jotted down or I have in notes for like your child moving into teenage years and young adult years because
mm,
you're saying that,
as a parent, right?
yeah, just I'm like, just think about how,
She feels,
yes,
yeah. Oh man,
or will.
oh real feel,
Yeah,
right?
we're not,
And that's another thing. Not only as a parent, you have to think about yourself, but I'm constantly thinking about how people will interact with her, how she's going to feel at school, like wearing her devices. That was a thing for a while. The kids would come up to her and be like, "Well, what's that on your arm?" And what what is that? What is that? And so there was a period where it was affecting her. And so I would go to the school and speak to the class to let them know, okay, this is what's going on. Um, this helps her stay alive. I would give her teachers a booklet of, what type of diabetes is, what to look out for. Um, I gave her daycare like a YouTube, like a video, like I made a PowerPoint presentation so that they could understand, you know, that's a whole another nuanced thing. I don't know if your parents had to deal with that, but having to deal with the daycare, had to deal with the schools, having to have conversations with them, making sure that they follow the 504 plan. It's a whole thing. Every year I actually get nervous having the 504 plan meeting with her school because it's a lot of pressure. The state comes, um, the assistant principal's in the meeting, her teacher's in the meeting. It can become very overwhelming. So
there's some great templates that are out there for children that
yes,
are type 1 diabetics that need 504 plans.
yes,
And they are continuously being updated.
yep.
Um, and I'm sure you have a template as well.
I do. We have the same template. We just update it per the nuance things. Like she just got a cell phone. I think I told you.
Right, you
And
told me
so
she was
I
getting.
know we had the conversation about, well, why is she still using her receiver?
Uh-huh. I was wondering.
But it's because
You told me no
I told you,
explanation
yeah.
needed.
Okay. I was just like, she broke two of her Dexcom receivers. And so I was like, all right, I'm not ready for you to have a cell phone yet. But now she has a cell phone. So, but she's still going to use her Omnipod receiver because we'll just keep that. But yeah.
Got you. Well, we were just talking about 504 plans.
Yeah.
But before I tapped into that, I wanted to go back and ask a question
Sure.
about her diagnosis and
Yep.
being so young
Mhm.
when diagnosed. I'm sure that today, like, diabetes is all she knows.
It is.
Like,
Well, yes and no. So, because sometimes I'll ask her, I'm like, do you remember what it was like before you were a diabetic? And she said, no, not really. Not really. She remembers a couple of things, but to your point, yeah, all she knows is diabetes. Yeah.
right, to a lot of young people when they growing up, if they were diagnosed as toddlers or such, what they do recall is seeing their peers. Like a lot of the things they may say, like, yeah, I remember this cake at so and so's party or being in this classroom with all these students, and that's typically what they recall.
Yeah.
Many of them don't recall even like going to doctor's visits,
Mm.
hospital stays,
Oh, she
but
remembers. She remembers her hospital stay because it was really important to her. Because she spent it the one day with her father. Because I had to go to work, And she even brings it up now, even at his funeral. She remembers it because they gave her Legos and people came to visit her, like the staff, and it was just a good time that she had. It made the experience less scary for her, the time that she spent with her father. So she does remember that, and the other day she just was like, mommy, sometimes I don't even remember that I'm a diabetic, and I was happy to hear that because she kind of feels like she is normal, even though she knows that she's you know but the thing that I like that she said that was because she's wearing the Omnipod, she sometimes forgets that it's even on her arm. And so she's like, oh, I forgot. So it's like now, like someone that she doesn't know will come up and be like, oh, what's that on your arm? And she's like, what are you talking about? Oh, and then she's like, oh. And so that makes me feel good because for the longest time, I just, I want to protect her. And for the longest time, I just knew that there was going to be times where I wouldn't be around her and she would have to experience constant questions, barrage of questions like, what is that on your arm? And what is this? And da, 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 and why do you do it? And why do you have to leave class? And, but it's getting a lot easier. So I'm happy about that.
That's good. Because, I mean, she's young.
Yeah.
That barrage of questions is something that no young person should have to deal with. But when they're coming from peers, it's more so kids are like intrigued.
They're intrigued. And I had to explain that to her. I said, don't get frustrated with your peers. Use it as an opportunity for you to enlighten them about your illness.
Okay? It's a teaching moment.
It's a teaching moment.
Right.
Don't, because she used to get an attitude. She used to get mad and I'm like, relax.
Look, every young person I know that's diabetic, like they're the way that they maneuver and their maturity is like beyond measure. Like they're like real young adults.
Like, yes.
Like when you see like posts when they be talking about like diabetes math.
Diabetes math, right?
Right. I'm always like, what? These young people I've spoken to, like,
yes,
they're on point.
On point. On point.
Right.
And that's Savannah. She is on point. Like even the doctors are always shocked when she has to go get like shots. They're like, they go on this whole soliloquy about, okay, you're gonna get this shot and you're gonna da da da, and she's looking at them like, I'm fine, thanks.
Right, because she's like, I mean, it's almost become innate, natural to her.
Yes, she doesn't have a fear of needles, because sometimes we have to give injected insulin when, it's like, so I mean, she is like a young adult. It's sad that they have to be that way, but it's also important that they have to be that way because currently I'm teaching her how to take more ownership of her diabetes. I do a lot of managing of her diabetes because she was so young. But now that she's entering into middle school soon, I'm teaching her how to apply her pod in her arm by herself, how to change out her Dexcom, how to do the calculations manually, just in case she wants to take a break from using her devices or using the Omnipod. And so it's new. It's a learning curve. Half the time she wants me to do it, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
It's just, I mean, Keisha, you got to think of it like anything else in life.
Yeah.
She's about to be 11.
Yep.
She's going to get some responsibilities.
Yep.
Right. I know for myself and my siblings, like we were all latchkey kids. Like this is like the diabetes latchkey kid
it's
almost.
Yes. I didn't even think about it like that, but yeah.
Right. It's as long as, and I know that you are directly giving her the education, support, resources she needs to be at her best.
Yeah.
There's not going to be too many worries other than the typical worries of living with diabetes, which they all can be fixed. They all can be altered. And I question many times because on via social media, you see a lot of adults that share all of the extras of diabetes. Like, me coming from a media background,
Yeah, me too.
media literacy, and that when I see certain things, I'm like, that was only for the clicks,
Only for the
for
clip.
the likes, for the follows,
Exactly.
because it's more of us just being normal,
Yeah.
living
Just
our
living your normal life.
living
Yeah.
our normal, successful lives.
Yeah.
That added part where we are dealing with the burnout, where we're trying to figure out our supplies, where we
Mm-hmm.
can't figure out why our blood sugar has dropped so low,
So,
and we're
right.
trying to get it back up, why the stubborn high is just stuck. Like, those are just small portions.
Portions. Exactly.
They're not all of it.
It's not.
Even though that small portion is a lot to someone who doesn't know anything about diabetes,
Exactly.
but to the person living with it
It's
or the
everyday life.
caregiver, yep, it
It's
is.
everyday life.
It's everyday life.
It's everyday. And that part, that I'm glad that you brought that up, because I did want to talk about, just as a parent, being that advocate and sort of kind of having to defend your actions, like when you're in public, like there was a thing even within my own family. They had a like an issue with me like being out in public, and this is when she was having injected insulin. I'm like, oh, why would you go to the bathroom and do that? No, I'm not going to the bathroom to do that. I'm gonna do it right here at the table. But now they're used to it. But there was a long time where, like, it just happened. Like Thanksgiving, my brother, he's in the military, but he hasn't really been around his niece in a while. So her Dexcom was going off, and he was like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Bro, I have a whole TikTok about type 1 diabetes. Do you not pay attention to anything that, it's just sometimes I get tired of explaining things to people.
Mhm.
Burnout. So, yeah.
Um, the information is always out there and available for people. That's what I say. Those who love us most will tap in.
Mm,
They will. They better,
they better, right?
because it's not. I mean, you're already raising a child. You're raising a child with type 1 diabetes.
Right.
You don't owe anyone any explanation, no
That
further. Like
part.
the things
That
that
part.
the things you're doing via TikTok and everything, that's extra. That's extra, right? Y'all getting the extra. I don't gotta give y'all the extra.
I felt like I had an obligation to give the extra, because I just had gotten so frustrated with like the questions and sometimes people
Mhm.
would tell me like, oh, you can treat that like with cinnamon. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
Like, what are you actually talking about?
So, sharing with loved ones, did any of them think it was temporary, like at the
Um,
beginning?
no, a lot of them didn't think about it at all.
They
Um,
just thought it
I,
was
I didn't have,
hers. It was something
yeah,
y'all
I didn't have a
y'all
whole lot
did.
of support. And I'll say that to say, because my mom, she's not really a fan of needles. And so she doesn't, even though she's a type 2 diabetic, she it was very hard to explain to some of my family and friends about the difference between like type 1 and type 2 diabetes. They're very similar, but there's nuanced differences, and that was difficult. And uh, to my mother's extent, she just didn't. Until this day, she like how you have to have a emergency contact to have someone know what to do to treat your child if something were to go wrong.
Mhm.
I would have these conversations with my family, and it would just go through one ear and not the other. And they weren't really paying attention, like with the glucagon and how to administer it if something were to go down if you were watching my child. It was just a very hard conversation to have. And so their go-to was, okay, we're just going to call 911. And I'm like, It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
You know,
I'm thinking about the bill.
right. It doesn't have to be that way. Just
Right.
this is what you need to do.
Right.
And so
That's a whole
that's my
nother
experience.
traumatic experience. Calling
Yeah.
911, having the emergency medics come to you, tend to you, go to the hospital. That's a whole nother ordeal of trauma that
Right.
you and your child should not have to
Right.
deal with.
Right.
So,
Like there's ways to treat DKA where you don't have to go to the hospital. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Now, Savannah went to DKA twice. Like the second time she went to DKA was during the pandemic. And I had freaked out. I'm not gonna lie to you. I knew what I needed, but I had freaked out. And so I had actually recorded that when we went to Children's, and that was one of my most viral videos on TikTok. Um, they were kind of looking at me like I was crazy, like, why did you bring her here? But she kept vomiting and she wouldn't stop. And so I was like, okay, I think this is serious. I think I need to take her to the hospital. Um, I had given her injected insulin. She still was vomiting. So I said, let me just take her to the hospital. But now I feel more confident in my response to, if her pod stops working and she hasn't gotten insulin for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, I feel more confident in, okay, she doesn't need to go to the hospital. I know what to do. But that's one thing for me as a parent to understand. It's another thing to explain that to a family member.
Right.
So those are yeah.
How was that with trust is a lot, especially as a
I don't
parent.
trust people.
Like because I was looking at some research and studies recently. Last week they were talking about it was like clinical studies, and they were saying that you should not allow your child to sleep over at
Nope.
people's houses
Nope.
and
I
things
don't.
of that nature.
No.
And that's what I was about. That's what I like. Other than
Mm-mm.
my mother-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
my kids never spend a night at
No.
anyone's house, and
No.
it's more so. I mean, she understands and knows everything like we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole trust, it's not more so like I don't trust you. It's more so like you just don't have the information I have. Like you
You
can't do
don't. You
this.
can't do right.
Can't, can't do this. Like I was reading a post on the Juicebox podcast Facebook page a couple of days ago, and
Mm-hmm.
or I think it was yesterday. A mom said that she let her ex-husband who
Mm.
has passed, her ex-husband's stepmother,
Mm.
or no, her ex-husband's stepfather
Mm-hmm.
watch her son because he has an uncle that's his age, that's the step grandfather's child. So she
Okay.
let him stay with him.
Okay.
And listen to this.
Uh-oh.
His Omnipod failed. He like I think he's like 9 or 10.
Mm.
And his mom called and they like in the morning was like, how was your evening? And he's like, Mom,
My pod fell off.
my pod fell, but Papa he found a syringe from Nana, and he gave me my insulin
Oh my god.
without reaching out to the mom. Nothing.
Oh my gosh.
A regular syringe, not an insulin
A
syringe.
syringe,
So he
like
was
a
like he was like he gave me 4.
for
She
what?
said she said send me a picture of the syringe.
Please.
It was 4 milliliters, not 4 units.
Oh my lord.
So she said they were on their way to church, and she said rush him to the hospital right now.
Right now. Right now.
Yeah, she said he had to have like over 300 carbs, like fast acting carbs.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, to your point, no. My daughter has slept over one of my best friends, her house, but she and I've had extensive, and she's a mom of 3, so like, I trust her. And but that's it's rare. I'm very protective of my daughter, and I want her to also feel safe. So this is another nuanced thing, and I don't know if you think about that, but being a single parent, now that her father has passed away, I constantly think about what would happen to her if something happens to me, and how would
Do you have a
she?
plan in place?
I have a plan in place. I'm always perfecting the plan, you know, because to your point, like who would be responsible or capable to watch her? How would she get her medicine? Like all those things, and that's something that is not really talked about in the space because I think a lot of people are coupled,
Right.
but it's a nuanced thing being a single parent, and you have to, it wasn't much of an issue for me before when her father was alive, um, but it's become it's a it's a thing now.
Keisha, that's a conversation I really want to tap into. I really want to have
Mhm.
because, first off, even as an adult, I trust no one with my care.
Right.
And I'm always like, maybe I would trust another type one
Yeah.
that I have seen manage and everything. Maybe I think I may be able to, but I
Yeah.
don't trust a doctor. I don't trust a nurse. Like, I love my wife, but with this,
Right here.
like, this is my, like, it's almost like it's my baby.
It is
Like,
your baby. It's your life. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, And I know that there will be so many questions asked, like, how do you do this? I'm like, I thought you got this.
Right.
I
Right.
thought you got this. But yeah, I did want to tap into that.
Yeah.
I have never held the conversation you just said about um if something were to happen or occur to you, the inevitable.
Hmm.
Um,
It's a constant thought. It's a constant thought that I have, and it wasn't as constant when her father was alive, but it has become very constant in my brain now that he has passed away. He, out of all of the people that could potentially watch her, he understood how to manage, or at least he was willing to learn, and I can't say that for everyone that's in my immediate circle. So it's a conversation that I have with myself on a daily basis, and yeah.
the family of Keisha, the family of Savannah. I create these podcast episodes primarily for it's like almost like a one pager that you're able to give to those who love you most, and they can just look at it because people they tend to understand or be able to resonate more with visuals. This is a visual, a forever visual that can be instilled and ingrained in your memory. Um, Keisha is telling you her truths right now.
Mm.
She has a baby. Savannah is still a baby. She's her baby. This child has lost her father. She only has her mother. She needs support. Keisha needs support. She deserves it. Savannah needs it. She deserves it. We need it. We deserve it. I'm a grown man. We all deserve that guided support. People that just show up and just show that they care. Show that you care by learning it. You you watch TV. You're on social media, YouTube. You share these weird videos with
Yeah.
people all the time. I don't want to see that your dog smiles, whatever. You share
Yeah.
these weird things all the time.
Yeah.
Hood news. Hood news is always in my rotation when I open up my Facebook Messenger, whether it's from
Right.
my big brother or my cousin. Like, come
Right.
on now.
Right.
This is a need, a necessity for y'all to truly understand what type 1 diabetes is,
Yeah.
how it's managed and cared for,
Right.
and how Savannah will be able to live out a full and productive lifestyle.
Right.
You have to truly tap in. All of the resources are there. Please tap in for this baby.
Oh, thank you.
Please. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Sometimes it does feel like a very lonely process or space. So I appreciate you. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's just one of the things I think about now, more now than I did before. And yeah, so I'm still figuring it out, because as to your point, you can't leave your child with just any old body, even if they didn't have a chronic illness, but especially with type 1 diabetes. So
Right. And she's almost 11. So in her mind, she's like, I can do it. Like, I can do anything. An 11-year-old girl.
right, right. Even like sometimes my mom was like, "What is she doing?" Like, I'm like, "She's fine. She's okay. She got it." But my only concern is like getting her medication and getting her supplies. Like, what would happen? Like, how would she get that? Like, that is what I think about. I have a friend from middle school. Her daughter is a type 1 diabetic, and she's in college, and so I actually had to reach out to her the other day because I'm like, you know, what do you do? How do you get her supplies to her? She goes to school in Philly. Like, how is she getting her supplies? And she's like, oh,
Hold
well,
on.
I mail it to her. I'm like, you mail it to
Do I know this friend?
her?
Because that's my area.
Um,
I'm in the Philly area.
my friend's name is Carol. Her daughter goes to what does her daughter go to? Her daughter goes to what are some schools in Philly?
Temple.
Temple. She goes to Temple. Yeah. But her daughter actually, surprisingly, in the summer, works at my daughter's elementary school as a counselor for the after school program. And my daughter kept coming home. It's like, mommy, oh, someone, my counselor, she's a type 1 diabetic. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I'm on Facebook scrolling and I see the girl that I see every day when I pick up my daughter. I'm like, isn't that your counselor? She's like, yeah. I was like, that's my friend's daughter. Like, we didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know. So I reached out to my friend Carol. I was like, Carol, like, your daughter's in college. Like, how does she get her supplies? She's like, oh, I mail it to her. I said, okay, that's good. It's those little nuanced things that, I can't just ask, a random person. I have to ask someone who's experiencing it.
I was waiting for the follow-up question. What if it gets lost in the mail?
Right. I guess she just sends it again, And so that's another thing, like Obamacare, like, I'm happy for Obamacare because now my daughter can stay on my insurance until she's 26. If they get rid of Obamacare, that will change, So there's all these little things that you think about as a parent of a type 1 diabetic. Like, you always have to be like a step ahead. You always have to make sure that the medication's there. I mean, you're an adult, you're going through that right now, but I didn't think that I would have to think of all these things when I had my daughter, And so it's just an extra step that you have to go through. I'm happy to go through it. I want to make her life as easy as possible because she has to deal with so much stuff. I'll take on that burden. You know what I'm saying? I'll take it.
At the same time, it's a burden that a parent shouldn't have to go through.
Yeah.
Other than caring for their child. When she was diagnosed, no one told you these nuances.
No.
And I have to find a title that has nuance in it because you've repeated it so many times.
Because I say it in my content. I say nuance because it's very nuanced. It's very particular. And I know sometimes like my people who follow me, my friends and stuff, they don't understand why I post so much about this and they don't understand it, but it's not really for them. It's for them, but it's not. It's for the community. I want to be able to relate to other people. I want someone to say, hey, this really helped me out. Just like you're doing, I want my content to reflect that as well because I needed that. I needed that in 2019. And I got it to an extent, but not to the point where I needed more.
Right. So, and it's been almost it's been almost 7 years, right?
Yeah. Oh, I would say she was
almost 5. Since 2019.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been almost
It's been about 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years. Yeah.
And in those 6 years, family, those who love you most, I'm going to keep on repeating it. They've had to have gained something, or
No.
like
No.
it's
I'm going to be really
crazy.
honest with you.
I know,
No.
I know. Like they don't even know
No.
about what kind of insulin she takes.
They don't. They don't. They don't know what
Those
insulin she
little
takes.
things.
They don't
How
know.
much?
No.
If you put the
Nope.
Dexcom and the Omnipod in front of
Nope.
them, and you said which one is the insulin pump
Nope.
type?
My
Nope.
mom still this day asks me, "What is that noise?" I gave my mom a whole book, like a whole booklet. The same one I gave her teacher. I said, "Here, Ma, review this. Like, look through it." She's like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that."
They're more of the wait and see.
Yeah, it's like I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna call 911. I'm like, so it makes it very difficult to have to figure out who I would leave her with if
And
something were to happen.
then they don't even know about the emergency room protocols and stuff,
Nope.
because you can't just call 911 and expect them to fix everything.
Right.
Because many people that are sent to emergency rooms because of diabetes complications, DKA, things of that nature, once they're hospitalized, they aren't given the care
They're
that they
not.
receive at home. And people believe,
Yeah.
they just think, oh, doctor, hospital, white coat. Oh, they know everything. No, they're not
No.
specialists
They're
in
not
diabetes
specialized.
care.
They're not.
Like you are the specialist.
Thank you.
You
Yeah.
are that diabetes educator.
There you go. I even contemplated becoming a diabetes educator, but I was like, oh, that's a lot.
I know it's a lot.
It's like it's a lot.
Yeah, you're not only that, you're the trauma therapist.
Listen, trauma,
The social worker.
social worker, everything. And all my content on TikTok couldn't even, come together to explain all of the things that I do as a parent of a type 1 diabetic. And so I just, I really want to tell you that I'm very grateful for this conversation. I feel like it's very cathartic. I've been needing to have this conversation with somebody.
Look, big brother's here. I got you. I got you.
Because
I got you, sister.
And sometimes I feel guilty for having these conversations, or creating my content, because I feel like people think I'm complaining.
Nah, you're not. You're being real. You're not only helping yourself, but you're helping other families.
Yeah.
Like when you were speaking, you spoke briefly, and I did want to tap into it before we do in this conversation about like the 504 plans.
Yes.
Like many don't know about that.
I had no clue. I had no idea what that was, until JDRF set that whole booklet of, what type 1 diabetes is. And then they had a whole section about 504 plans, and they had the template. Mm-hmm. And then I knew right away that I had to get this established with her daycare, because at the time she wasn't in kindergarten, and I had to go to work. I had to take her to the daycare. So I had to have several conversations with the daycare. They knew about the 504 plan because they were a daycare and they were funded by the state, so they had to know. It was more, the ownership was on me to get that together. And and this is not also talked about, all of the supplies that you have to leave at the school, how much that costs, at the daycare, like the snacks.
Like people think, okay, she's 4, she's 5. All she needs is a change of clothes, whatever.
Nope.
No.
I spend so much money on snacks.
Let's talk about that stipend. Where's the stipend? Where is this food stipend? This supply stipend? Like,
there's no stipend. There's no stipend.
It needs to be one. Like, okay, you want my child to live a healthy lifestyle?
And then the nurses, I wanted to talk about the nurses at the school, because sometimes we have a back and forth. I appreciate their help. My daughter is in public school. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing about either keeping your child in public school or private school, because there's a difference. So like, because if you put your child in public school, they get the benefits of having a paraeducator. You know, I remember I took a class at Children's Hospital on how to do the calculations for the injected insulin. And there was another Black family there. It was a dad and a daughter. He was a single parent, but he had put his daughter in private school. And every day he would have to go to the school and give her injected insulin. And I'm like, you do that every day? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, why? Like, why are you doing that? Why don't the nurses do it? And he told me that they don't do that because it's a private school and they don't have to follow the same guidelines as a public school. And I said, that's crazy.
And many of
That's
them don't even
crazy.
have, many don't even have nurses.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I can't put my daughter in private school because I work. I can't do that.
Right.
So yeah, it's all these nuanced things that you think about. Like when someone says, oh, I can't do that. I need the help of the state.
School with type 1 diabetes is like it's a whole nother ordeal.
It is.
The technology, having access, like
Wi-Fi.
your daughter has a phone, having access to the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
You got to make sure that's input in her 504 plan.
It's in there. I just want to make sure that the Wi-Fi works.
Correct.
When she's at school.
Especially like if she has to ever switch classes, that it doesn't go out and then she would have to reconnect.
And that's another reason why I kind of want her to keep the receiver, because I don't want that to be an issue, and there's no way for me to fix it. Like how, how would I fix that?
Right. And then there's trust issues with the school. Like if you say you get an extended substitute and they don't know anything about it. Like my oldest son, he's
That's
16.
Right now.
He's had a 504 plan since he was in elementary school. But like recently, like he had a gym teacher that was out for the first few months of school. Then he came back and he didn't know about his 504 plan. And there was a big ordeal that happened with that. And
I had that happen this year too. Her teacher, we had the whole 504 plan meeting, and then her teacher resigned and went to another school. And so my daughter has had a substitute for the first and second quarter. And there was an incident where my daughter had to go to the nurse's office and he wouldn't let her go. And so I got a call from the nurse and she said, oh, there's an incident, but we resolved it and blah, blah, blah. The teacher wrote up my daughter for disobeying his orders. And my daughter was she was upset. Like Savannah was really upset about it. But then it was resolved, but it's that part because he was a substitute. And it's those little things that you can't anticipate. You want to be able to anticipate everything, but it's those little things that kind of bother you as a parent.
Right. That's something that should be prepared for anyone that steps into the classroom.
Right.
Should be a note that just says that's kept on the teacher's desk. Savannah she has a 504 plan, and if
she's allowed to get up and go to the bathroom when she feels like it. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Right.
And then sometimes I have a little back and forth with the nurses. Sometimes, because I have it written in the 504 plan that I'm allowed to make changes. At the directive, I can tell the nurses, hey, do this, do this, do this. But, because they were very strict about following what's in the 504 plan, which is great. But, you make on the cuff decisions with your diabetes, and I do the same thing with her. And so, but they're like, well, it's not in the 504 plan, so we can't do that. I'm like, okay, fine. So I had to physically write it in there so that they could follow my, my advice. Cause she was going low at gym. She would keep going low. And, I would tell them, well, just take away 20 grams. Don't give her all of the carbs, just take away some carbs. And then, to prevent her from going low. They're like, well, it's not in the 504 plan. I'm like, yo, just do it. Please.
Just do it. Look, that's what I always tell people. I just be like Nike. And they'd be like, I'm like Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
Right. School, like I said, with a child with type 1 diabetes, it's like Oh,
it's
another ball
crazy.
game. And I've spoken to so many different
It's
families and
crazy.
tried and assisted. I've spoken, like, I just speak as a child advocate, like within schools, adult advocates in hospitals when they're, because we know how that is,
Yeah,
with
it's crazy.
adults not being heard when they're
Yeah,
hospitalized. Because as soon as you are hospitalized, people think like, oh, you did something wrong.
yeah,
Yeah. So I was asked like, your child is 10 going on 11 again.
yep.
Um, Hormones or
That's another thing. Like the menstrual cycle, like when
yes,
that's a whole different thing.
right.
Um, like normally if her blood sugar is spiking or it's like high for a reason, it's because like she's having a growth spurt. But that whole period thing, that's a different ball game, you know?
Yeah, you gotta pay attention.
Yeah. So, and anything can affect the blood sugar, and you don't realize that until you're in the midst of things, you know? And so I try to pay attention to that. And I try to make sure that she's aware. But I give her so much credit because there was a point when she was first diagnosed where she wasn't really recognizing her lows. But now that she's 10, she feels it. She's like, Mommy, I'm low. She already knows she's low before even before her Dexcom even says anything. And so I really think that's pretty awesome of her to understand her body and understand when she's going low, and knows how to manage that on her own. So
Um, so Keisha, I did want to ask as we do wind down
yep.
um about because we did have a conversation about trust.
Yes.
About I want to talk about your child
Okay.
and her responsibility as she grows
Yeah.
moving forward. You spoke about like you having her do little things. Um, do you think, well, when do you think that she'll be at a point where you'll be able to release that? Because I'm going to tell you this, because it will, in the early stages, it'll be like, for you, it'll be like diabetes has started all over.
Yeah.
But give it a minute and you'll be like, as long as you've already taught your daughter all of the fine lines and just maturing
Hmm.
as a young woman, you'll be like, good. Like I can go on this date now. Like,
Right. And leave her by herself. Right.
yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I don't, um, we've started. So like, in school, that's like for in school, right now, she doesn't have a paraeducator. So in the county that I live in Maryland, they're having some budget cuts. And so, she couldn't get a para this year. But they had warned me when she was in fourth grade that she wouldn't have a para. I could have fought back, but I said, you know what? I think this would be good for her because she can prepare for middle school. And so that's a start. So, like, um, I've given her more autonomy to be able to treat her lows in the classroom. Not like if it's like a severe low, but not to the point where she needs to go to the nurse's office like every time she's low. Like we have snacks in the classroom. She can go grab a snack, test her blood sugar and um make sure her Dexcom is actually accurate. And then if it is accurate, treat her low. And if she doesn't come up within like 15 minutes, then go to the nurse's office. You know what I'm saying? And that conversation I actually had to have with the nurses again because it was in the 504 plan. And I guess the nurses forgot because we had a back and forth recently about that. And so when she saw her endocrinologist the other day, I brought it up to them, and I really appreciated. I appreciated her because she advocated for me as well. Um, because she said, yeah, Savannah doesn't need to be going to the nurse's office every time she's low. She can treat the low in the classroom. So we started there. I'm having her put her pot on her arm by herself. She already knows how to use her devices. Um, And I told her when she's 12 that I want her to go to diabetes camp. So I'm looking into that. Because I want her to be around other type 1 diabetics so she can have a sense of camaraderie.
You're
But
not going to be in a parking lot.
no, because it's far away. It's like a sleepaway camp. So that's kind of nerve-wracking.
There's a bunch of them around.
Yeah, but I feel like she would be okay. Like out of all the places she could go, that would be the safest place for her, amongst other type 1 diabetics, right?
Like what I said about the trust. Maybe another type 1.
Right. Like
hold you accountable.
So I'm open to that now that she's getting older. But I do want to give her more responsibility because 1, it'll put a little bit of ease on me, but 2, I want her to feel confident because there's going to be a time where I won't be around and she has to do it on her own. And I have to kind of release and let it go,
Yeah, I just had this like thought in my head where I'm picturing, because I mean, she's going on 11. So you're teaching her things around the house also, like different things she can like to cook and how to clean.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, let's incorporate diabetes into that also.
Yes.
Like, while you're watching that chicken, you gotta stop, check your blood sugar. You may need to change your site or set it up for those times.
Now, I want to ask you a question. I don't know if it's unorthodox, but like do you use the Omnipod or do you use?
Yes.
Okay, so what's like? Where do you? Because I'm finding it difficult. She can't wear it on her stomach because it falls off. So we use her arms a lot. We sometimes use her legs, but I told her like now that she's learning how to do it on her own, that her leg might be a better option because it's hard to put it on your arm by yourself. So
early on in our conversation, I did write a note about arms because you kept mentioning about her arms.
Yeah.
So arms are my go-to. But you can start from above the elbow, going all the way up.
But how do you put on the adhesive? Because she wears the adhesive too. Like, do you find it difficult to do that on your own?
What does she use?
I get them from Amazon.
So you mean like stickers?
Not the stickers. Like the little patch that you put around the Omnipod, because so it doesn't fall off. It's plastic. It's like a clear plastic. Yeah.
I'm trying to picture what you talk about.
I'll send you a picture. It's we don't do the ones that look like a Band-Aid because those always fall off, but it's like a clear patch that you put around the Omnipod to secure it. That she has trouble putting on her arm. She can put the pod on her arm, but she has trouble putting that part, the other, because you can't see it, you can't like.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I'll look in a mirror, but
a mirror. Good idea.
Skin Tack. Have you ever used Skin Tack?
I have not. I know about Skin Tack, but I have not.
Skin Tack, you put that on, you put that pod on, you won't even need an overlay.
Oh.
It's that good.
I will invest in some Skin Tack. I didn't realize. Okay.
Look, and tell me whoever's giving you this stipend. They see all of these things we have to invest in just to be.
Yeah, because that's
really just to be on an even. We're still not even on an even playing field. We're not.
It's not even covered. Like all those little things are not covered under insurance. They're not. Yeah.
Right, so with my arm, I go all the way up. I go around. I go behind on both arms. Skin Tack, that's the only way I'll use my stomach areas with the Skin Tack. Or, the adhesives that Dexcom. What does she use now, G6 or G7?
We are literally about to transition over to the G7, but right now she's using the G6.
So with the G6, you know how they would give you that pack of 10 overlays?
Yep.
So I would take the Omnipod, put it over the overlay, trace it, and cut it out because those overlays were the absolute best. And I use them for my pods.
Nice.
Yeah, and I could put them all.
I've done that before when I've run out
from my stomach, like all around, even in the back, like the love handles area.
It doesn't fall off when you put it back?
It doesn't.
Wow. Okay.
It doesn't. And then the thighs going all the way up, let's say probably 6 inches from the knee.
Okay.
And that's a whole lot of space on both thighs.
It is. And so you don't even use the overlay when you're putting it on those other places. You just use a skin tack.
Just the skin tack.
Okay, I'm going to try that because I want her to feel she's afraid of it falling off, and I've been afraid of it falling off too without the overlay. So I'm going to invest in the skin tack and see how that works, so she can have more autonomy.
Right. Yeah. So when you put the skin tack on, just make sure you like fan it out so it's dry.
Okay.
It's very sticky. And then you put it on there, and make sure when you do put on a new pod that you pinch the skin up.
Oh yeah, I always pinch.
Okay.
Always pinch it. And I even jiggle the arm fat to make sure that the blood circulates.
Right.
But
do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I see as your child responsibilities grow, like you're gonna be there with her.
I am. And she's gotten a lot more confidence in herself, and so she's ready to take on these new, before she wasn't. She just really wanted me to do it for her, but now she is prepared. I think, and so she's more open to me not doing so much for her. Yeah.
And Savannah, speaking to you right now, Savannah. I must let you know that even as an adult living with type 1 diabetes for the last almost 22 years, I do have my struggles. Just know that your struggles, our struggles, remember this. And you can remember, take note of this also, Keisha, that we are literally doing the job of organs that aren't fully functioning, cells that have died out that can't be rejuvenated. Like, we are literally doing this. So it is like we have a superpower. Even through our struggles, remember that you're able to do this.
Right.
When you look at your peers, they may be playing basketball in the musicals, whatever they're doing. Just know you're going to be able to do those things also. But you're also able to keep you at your best.
At your best and alive.
You're able to keep mommy happy, keep mommy smiling. That's that hope. She's able to do that. Savannah, like, there are no limitations.
No.
There's time. There's time where you're going to be like, I don't have enough time to do this or whatever. But just take a moment. Just breathe. Don't worry about everyone else and their rush for life. Because we all have our lives that we live and that we have to take the measurable steps to be at our best.
Yeah.
You will take those measurable steps to be at your best. And whenever you have any issues of concern, of struggles, of burnout, those things, your mom will be there.
I will.
You will have community.
Yeah.
You will have people. I'm around. I'm always going to be around for my people. Like, we got this.
We got this.
We got this. And another thing, don't let social media tell you what diabetes is.
That's facts.
Don't let it. Everyone living with diabetes is different.
Yep.
This isn't a one-size-fits-all ordeal.
It's not.
Because we all don't come from the same lived experience.
No.
Same backgrounds. Everyone's not from hierarchy.
Right.
Many are disenfranchised, marginalized communities that don't have that extra support that some have.
Right.
For many, it's just child and mom. And y'all got this.
Oh, thank you.
How are you today, Keisha?
I am doing great. Like, if you had asked me that in 2019 or in 2020 during COVID, no, COVID was crazy.
Were you ready to put your baby in a bubble?
I was ready to put her in a bubble. I said, nobody be around me, please.
Look, it's better to be preemptive and do all those steps than to face the unknown.
Yeah, I was so scared during COVID actually, but I'm doing great. I had my moments. I felt it a little bit more. I told you when her father passed away. It was like how you put it. It's like diabetes started all over again. Because I had to have different conversations with myself about managing her care. Same conversations, but a different thought process. But I'm doing great. Like I'm dating, and my perspective on diabetes is way different today than it was when she was first diagnosed. And we just we take it one day at a time, and we try to educate people who don't know. And She's more open to educating people and not getting frustrated, which is I'm happy about. Her perspective has also changed, and she embraces being a type 1 diabetic. I even asked her the other day. I said, Savannah, we're coming out with all these new advances in type 1 diabetes. People are getting transplants. And I asked her, I said, well, do you ever think that you would want to get a pancreas transplant? She said, no, mommy, I don't. I will live with this for the rest of my life. And I said, really? That kind of shocked me.
It's because it's what she knows.
Yeah. Yeah. I would think that, she would want a transplant so she could be rid of diabetes, but she said, I don't want that, mommy.
You
I
know
don't
what's
want
crazy? I don't want a transplant either.
Mm,
But I would, and I have tried to sign up for clinical trials for the islet beta cells because I know with a pancreas, if you get a pancreas transplant, you won't be able to get that functional cure
mm,
if you're able to get if once the islet transplant becomes available
okay.
because you can't inject those islet beta cells into a
Into your
transplanted
plant-
pancreas.
pancreas. Mm, okay.
So yeah, I would hold off on that pancreas, but to each their own. Some people are like, I just want it now.
Yeah. And I've been seeing the videos where people have been like getting the transplants and they're like happy. And I'm like, oh man, that would be nice for Savannah. But I was, your body could also reject it.
Rejected.
And, sorry. And that is also a concern. But it was just interesting for her to say that to me. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Right. I don't know if you noticed this, Keisha. So when you first started talking,
Mhm.
you mentioned a few things, and I said throughout this conversation, I'm not going to write it down, but I said I'm going to break this down into segments.
Mhm.
I said I'm going to break it down into the initial segments were for yourself,
Mhm.
so you can reflect on.
Mhm.
So I was speaking to you and
Yeah.
having you help heal. And then I was like, towards the end, I was like, I'm going to speak to Savannah. But in
Mhm.
between there, we spoke to your family,
Yeah.
those who love y'all most. We
Yeah.
spoke to the nurse,
Right.
to the school, to
Right.
her peers. So when this is released, everyone may not want to hear the full thing, just like
Right.
they don't want the book in front of them. But you did speak to your mom.
I did.
It's easier to just share a link
It is.
and
Yeah.
to be on repeat, like you said,
Yeah.
having to continuously state the same things over
Over
and
and over
over
and over
and
again.
over again.
Yeah.
So yes, we broke down these segments, and I did not put nuance in a title. I titled this "Raising Savannah,"
Oh, thank you.
and that you're welcome. It was a play off of a movie from
But, uh, on Netflix, right?
nope.
Oh no, not that.
This is a movie I don't even know if you've seen because I'm a bit older than you. um, Holly Berry,
Hmm. Oh yes, raising Isaiah,
losing Isaiah.
losing Isaiah. Yeah,
So I was like, raising Savannah.
that's so cute. Thank you. That was a tough movie. That was a
It was
Yeah, that was a tough movie.
um, a mother raising a child living with type 1 diabetes is a tough life.
Mm,
It's a tough reality.
Mm,
Like I said earlier, some people, like many people, can easily tap into all of those feeds and watch those strange videos and comment on those things. They should be able to comment on your reality, tap into that. Even if it means a family group chat where, like, you may just mention something and someone responds like in a way that's inappropriate. It's a moment, it's a teaching and learning moment right then and there.
right. And to your point, I think a lot of people avoid the conversation. They just assume that you're doing okay. If you're not talking about it, they just assume that everything is fine. And so sometimes they don't even ask, you know? And I think this will be helpful. So I will share it with, my family and my friends. Um, but again, I really do want to thank you because this was very cathartic for me. um, and I just appreciate you. I really do, you know. And
Thank
the
you.
fact that you saw that this was a need says a lot about you as a person. So I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you. I wind every conversation down with
Mm-hmm.
this one question. You've already said you've had a conversation with Savannah about getting a transplant,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to speak about a transplant because I see functional cures are
Mm-hmm.
on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Mm-hmm.
seen them. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen people get these
The,
islet beta cell
yep. Yep.
transplanted, and now they're working on doing them so you won't have to use anti-rejection meds.
Rejection Medicaid, right?
Yeah, and
It's
it's
amazing.
it's been working.
It has been working. It
It's been
has.
working. So on that day, Keisha,
Mm-hmm.
on that day, and this is the first time I've asked a parent this,
Ooh.
on that day, when you
Mm-hmm.
find out that your child is fully cured
Mm.
of type 1 diabetes,
Mm.
I know it's going to be another, like try, like you can't believe this, like
I
how,
can't. I can't. Yeah.
and you'll be underneath her nose for a minute,
You're
but
like,
almost like, are you breathing? Like, you know how we do as parents with the
right. Like,
infants.
you alive?
Yeah. But on that day, when a full functional cure is here and available for not only Savannah, but for everyone,
Mm.
and we are all getting this cure
Mm.
because we know um, the government doesn't want us to have diabetes.
Mm-mm.
They want the money.
They want
People
the
want
money.
money, but there's a lot that goes into this. If we can rid the healthcare system of diabetes, they'll be able to do so many other things, like they have done with other ailments, other diseases once they've rid of them.
Exactly.
Hospital rooms will be able to be filled more. Like,
Exactly.
remember during the pandemic, like
Mm.
couldn't get in.
Could not get in.
People were out in tents.
Mm.
So on that day,
Mm-hmm.
you find out, I call you.
Okay.
Ring, ring. Answer the phone, Keisha. Ring, ring.
All right. Hello.
Hey, Keisha, I am fully cured of
Mm.
type 1 diabetes. And
Mm.
I've been looking across my feed. Everyone's talking about how they're cured also.
Mm.
Savannah's cured. Savannah's cured, Keisha.
Mm.
She's fully cured.
She's fully cured. Ah, I
Keisha,
would break down in tears.
on that day, what do you do?
Break down in tears. Break down in tears. Um, and just thank God. But honestly, just be in tears because for the past 6 years, this has been my whole life. It's been my whole life. It's hard to think about what life was before diabetes. Even for me, I remember it, but this is all we know, you know? So I would really just be on my knees thanking God, because it would take a lot of my worries away about my daughter's future, like what is going to happen to her as she gets older and tries to manage it on her own. So I'm praying for the day. I'm praying for the day.
Keisha, I'm an emotional thug. I am. But you just touched me right here.
Mm-hmm.
For real. I was asked 2 days ago, after I asked the young lady from India what she would do. She said, what would you do? And I said, I've only been asked this question once before, but I told the person,
Mm-hmm.
I will break down on to my knees and just thank God. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah, because
so I gotta knock on wood.
Yes, because and that's why I think that's partly why I asked my daughter if she wanted a transplant, because I'm like, I constantly think about her future. Like I constantly am thinking like, how is she going to manage this as an adult? Like, how can I help her to do this? You know, so it helps me to talk to you as an adult. I only have a couple of people around me who are type 1 diabetics. Two people are at my church. One was diagnosed as an adult like you, and another family, their parents are type 1 diabetics. Their daughter is a type 1 diabetic, but they're younger than Savannah now. I can have that dialogue with them, but they weren't always around. They were just recent. So I just appreciate this very much. I'm trying not to cry.
You're good.
I'm trying, but
they say big girls cry.
I know. I know. But I really appreciate this because I don't get to have these conversations too often. I'm normally doing the talking. And so it's just been a very nice dialogue to have with someone who understands where I'm coming from and where my daughter's coming from. And I feel a sense of community. And I haven't felt that in a while. So
and
I appreciate
we leave this conversation. Let the people know. Let them know. I just had a conversation with Will, and
amazing. You're amazing.
I appreciate you.
You're amazing.
And on that note, Keisha, mother of Savannah, raising Savannah, I truly thank you for joining me on the Chronically Will podcast, where we have real conversations with community that needs to be heard. Keisha, you are definitely someone that needs to be heard.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.